So I'm going to do a couple selections of reading today or over the next couple of days, and I'm going to do a little more commentary than I usually do. I like to let the readings that inspire me stand completely on their own, but these are kind of circumstantial, and it might be hard to understand how they apply to art or life, but they do, and I do think it's evident in my work. And then also its timeliness. This is spring of 2020 when I'm writing these, and the coronapocalypse is deeply upon us. So the first book in this little grouping that I'm going to talk about is one of my weirder books. I got it in a book hoard of books from someone who was deeply into this kind of stuff, bordering on the very conspiratorial. And when I got it, I was aware that this perspective was tainted with certain influences, but I did not care, because what was interesting to me was viewing the perspectives as a whole, and I did end up getting rid of a lot of them just because they were seemingly rantings of madmen, but there are some that were written with just care, and then also they're definite. You could tell they're from an individual source, and other people's perspectives, whether you agree with them or not, are so valuable. But this particular one I really have enjoyed. I don't know if it ever made a regular publication, because it's in a very funky paperback, and this is Get Thee Up Into the High Mountain by Dallas Rosquemore. And it's listed as a survival manual. And even though he was very convinced Russia was coming to take us over, I really like some of his thoughts, and specifically his first chapter about food I would like to read. And it really gives a different perspective of life, and I would say in some ways that's something I very much agree with. So page 11. How often have you read or heard of someone dying of starvation in the woods? Perhaps the individual was lost, stranded, or forced there because of war or crime. At any rate, he dies because he had nothing to eat. Or should we say that apparently there was nothing to eat? There are even stories of men eating each other in out-of-the-way places because of lack of food. Now, in the face of all this, did it ever come to your mind that in the same place where that man was found dead, there we're to found his body, in that place there were tracks of many animals? There were tracks of birds. There were tracks of deer, fox, and other animals. Could that person have killed any one of these animals, he would have saved his own life. Had he killed any animal, he would have found the carcass to be fat and healthy. Now the real question is, how did that animal manage to be so well supplied with vitals? Where did his groceries come from? Now we find the answer when we are prepared for wilderness life. I know that all these animals live out their natural life on the substance given to them by Mother Nature. Winter and summer alike, they find sustenance for their bodies. I have taken many deer out of the Rockies, but never did I kill one that was without the usual inch of fat on his back, and this proves my point. There is plenty of food in the mountains. Even at the end of winter, when some animals are lean, I killed a squirrel and found a good layer of fat on him. If they can do it, surely man, with his intelligence, can do it as well. We will start out on the assumption that we have been cast upon the mountains with little or no preparation for survival other than what we know. The first thing of importance is to avoid panic and begin directly to put your energy and effort to the most important things first. If you are cold, it will be evident that warmth is a first requirement. You should act directly to eliminate this obstacle by the use of fire and other available ways to get warm. If you are hurt, first aid will be needed. And needless to say, food is a standing necessity. Whatever your first need is, it will be recognized directly, therefore, while your energy is still at its best, and use this best advantage without delay in preparing to keep your energy working to stay alive. Above all, do not give up and panic at the very beginning. Don't panic. Your worst enemy in the wildest and darkest jungle will be panic and discouragement. Fear of wild beasts or other completely false and needless worries will only cause you unnecessary anxiety and discomfort. All such fears are completely unwarranted. Do not forget that God gave us dominion over all the beasts of the field. There is less than 1 chance in 1,000 that vicious wild animal will dispute your presence, even when he has landed a tasty meal. He will leave it for you rather than remain in your presence. You will soon see when you start to hunt for game of any kind that they make themselves scarce when you come around. In the Rocky Mountains, the only dangerous animals are bears and mountain lions. However, I will deal with each of them later in the book. By knowing the nature of each and what to do in emergency, we are by no means in danger. In looking out for our necessity first, then let us suppose for the sake of this chapter that is food. Food will be so near the first necessity that it might as well be placed first on the list anyway. One must keep in mind that we are not to delay until strength or health are in danger, for then it will be too late for action. Food prejudices. We all agree that we have our likes and dislikes about the food we eat. We also know that there are foods which would be to our healthful advantage if we did eat them, such as spinach. Therefore, at the very outset, we can say that our food likes and dislikes are a hazard to us, even under normal living conditions. There is little doubt that we would turn up our noses at many wilderness foods. We naturally like what we are accustomed to eating, but now we no longer have it, so we must face the reality of our situation and take to our bodies the necessities for maintaining health and strength. There is also the danger that we may look down our noses at certain foods as below our social station. But again, remember that if you do not eat, you will soon be without even your social station. Remember, too, you never see a cow refuse good green grass, and I have never watched a turkey that would not eat a nice fat grasshopper. Now neither the grass nor the grasshopper did anything but good to its partakers. Therefore remember that likes and dislikes are a thing of the past when necessity calls, no matter under what conditions. Likewise, never overlook any food source when food is not plentiful. When food is in abundance, take advantage of it. Farm folks know the meaning of making hay while the sun shines. Do the same, store up food for worse times, as the squirrel. And he continues into different types of food sources. But there are many, many books like these. And if you don't personally have them, I guarantee you there's some old man not far from you that has a good amount of them. There's probably one odd fellow around that definitely does, even in the most urban of settings. And it's not that you would necessarily need to use a book like this. It's not that you would necessarily need to have a guide on basic bunker ideas. It's not that you would really need to have how to fletch an arrow available to you. But the thing is, if you do, whether you need it or not, it can give you a certain amount of confidence, and it can uplift your mental maintenance so that your first thoughts aren't how you could get the regular thing from your neighbor, but perhaps how you could get all the things, like how you could have another way, like trying to find a smoother way to say this, but if you know what plants are safe to wipe with, you're not going to be worried about running out of toilet paper. And so that's my thoughts, and I'm going to go through a couple other books. Thank you for viewing.